Do you want to get your hands on a free, very large, epic isometric map? Tokens for player characters, tokens for creatures, and a bunch of other stuff to put on your virtual tabletop like Roll20, like Fantasy Grounds. Make sure to hang around because now is your chance. Hi there, fellow Dungeons & Dragons players and Dungeon Masters. My name is Mr. Tarask and this is your go-to YouTube channel for everything third-party Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition related. I do reviews, I do previews, I do flip-throughs, I do all that stuff when it comes to third-party Dungeons & Dragons. And 3 years ago, I talked about the epic isometric bundle by Alex Drummond, who has sent me then 3 years ago a lot of stuff for me to look over and to add in my game, and I've actually been using that stuff quite a few times over the last 3 years and I absolutely love it. And it has always been a favorite thing of mine because it is this like this isometric type of thing you put in your virtual tabletop that has a bunch of like that pencil type artwork, like really black and white old school artwork, creature tokens, there's player character tokens for all classes, there's all kinds of stuff, item tokens you can put in there, there's all kinds of stuff in there. And right now they actually changed it over into full, and I have to say, very beautiful, very vibrant color. Now you can get your hands on a free sample pack, actually a usable sample pack. So not just a bunch of screenshots for you to look at, which are very pretty, but like a real sample pack with like some tokens for player characters, which are like these mini statues you put in your game. Then there are a few creatures and there is this gigantic map that you can create an entire encounter, an entire dungeon on, which is actually pretty cool and it's free for everybody. The link is in the description below. You can just pick that up and see if the epic isometric bundle is for you. The color is why I'm talking about it right now on my channel, because up until now, well, a while back, it was all this black and white old school thing, which I love very much. But Alex contacted me again and he was like, hey, you talked about my stuff on your YouTube channel a few years ago, maybe you want to talk about it again. I can use some eyes on it, so check this out. And he sent me some screenshots of what he's doing right now, and I was blown away. He just added a few layers of colors. Well, I'm not an artist, I know it's hard, but I mean, in my eyes, they just added a few layers of color to the epic isometric maps and tokens and everything, and it just all comes to life in a ridiculously awesome way. And it is actually very affordable stuff. So when I first talked about this product on my channel 3 years ago, when I had a few hundred subscribers, which is in an awkward, very awkward video, I will put the link in the description below, I talked about it and I really liked it, and you could pick it up on Drive-Thru-RPG, and you can still pick that stuff up on Drive-Thru-RPG, that old school black and white stuff, which is really cool. The value is really there. I still fondly believe in the product, but right now they kind of moved everything, the focus of their product, over to Patreon, to their Patreon page. Alex is not working on it alone anymore. He has a person who does the color, he has a person who does this, does that. He has a very successful Patreon page, and if you become a Patreon supporter of him for any tier, whatever, you get a bunch of stuff. Alex kind of sits down every day probably and he just draws out this amazing stuff for you to use in your game on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or wherever. And as a Patreon supporter, you can utilize your that, and you just keep getting stuff to put in your game, which is really a really awesome way to support an artist, firstly, and secondly, get your hands on really, really cool stuff. And I'm not really here to review his Patreon page and go over every tier you can support him for, but basically you can support him for $1 per creation, which gives you a high-res map. You can support him for $3, $6, which gives you more and more and more like map stuff you can put together in your Roll20 stuff, a thing to create your own map, more creature tokens, more character tokens, more of the stuff he creates, the higher the tier. And it is he has has a bunch of supporters right now, and it's just very cool to, at least if you play Dungeons and Dragons online virtually on any virtual tabletop, it is really worth checking out and moving one of your games over to the isometric style. Personally, I love it a lot, so I really suggest take a look at his Patreon page. And that is basically it. I am right now putting the free sampler pack on Roll20, on my Roll20 account, creating kind of a one-shot encounter for when one of my players maybe doesn't show up. We can all log into Roll20 and just do a game of like a one-shot game. There is a lot of stuff in there. Well, it is not the biggest thing, but you can have like 1 or 2 sessions in there. There is this entire map. There is like this big worm creature. There's some undead in there. There's tokens for, if I'm not mistaken, for a paladin, a wizard, a fighter, so everybody can play a character, and you can have like a really cool one-shot or a start of a new campaign. And it's really worth checking out. And if you are a fan of the epic isometric, then make sure to think about supporting him on his Patreon and get some awesome stuff in return.